Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at a scenario where China and Russia go to war with the rest of Asia. So I've done Russia versus Europe. I have done, actually I'm pretty sure that, I've done USA versus the Americas as well. But today we're doing Russia and China versus the whole of Asia. So I did do some research, so it should be accurate, but of course this is unrealistic. There's no way that India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, Israel and Iran, South Korea and North Korea would all team up against Russia and China. That is just, there's so many terrible relations here. On the blue team, as I said, India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, etc., etc. When it comes to manpower, gotta give it to the blue team. Economy, it's pretty close. Resources, well, they have the Middle East. But you know what, that's enough. If you want to check that, you can check it yourself. What I'm in charge of is showing you the scenario and how the war is going to play out. So let's go and begin with Chinese and Russian troops quickly taking out Mongolia. It is a very weak country here right in between them and would most likely fall very quickly. Next up is Kazakhstan, and this is mainly just Russian troops pushing in. They begin their invasion and it goes decently well, although the country is not fully dying yet. And a majority of the invasion is over here in the west, since that is where a lot of Russia's population is. A lot of this is just Siberia. But that's besides the point, as Chinese troops are now beginning to push down to North Korea. And, well, South Korean and Japanese forces are holding them off, but it won't hold off forever. We then see China making a landing on Taiwan and beginning to push down to Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. Vietnam is able to hold a front along with Thailand, but Myanmar and Laos, well, they can't. So they're going to begin to fall here. Indian forces do begin to push into Myanmar, though, to stop the Chinese dead in their tracks. Meanwhile, oh my god, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Pakistan and India make a joint offensive into China. Oh my god, that sounds so wrong. Pakistan and India working together to push to China. No, let's just go with it. I really never thought I'd say that. Well, here's another one. Turkey and Iran working together to hold off the Russians in the Caucasus Mountain region. There we go. We now have Israel and Iran working together to push back the Russians in Central Asia. And we see North Korea and South Korea work together to push back the Chinese. That's just so wrong. Well, this is all completely wrong. But the Chinese are beginning their own push into Central Asia, and this is causing Kazakhstan as a whole to begin to fall. Having to fight a two-front war, the country eventually surrenders, and now Chinese and Russians are beginning to push down to Uzbekistan. Kyrgyzstan soon after falls, Tajikistan along with it, and Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan are not far behind. So yeah, there goes their sweep through Central Asia. That may look like it's given them a huge advantage, but there are not many people, not much population, not much anything in Central Asia, or in Mongolia. In North Korea, I guess this is semi-important, but honestly, the economy is all in the south, so if they can just use the north as area that can fall without it being too drastic, they should. Where are the Chinese going to go from here? Well, they're going to continue to push down to Southeast Asia as they want to capture the entire region. Although the combined force of Vietnam, the Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar, India, and Indonesia are able to hold them off. With that, Pakistan and India continue their advance into China, as they're the only ones making any real important progress into another country, into one of the right team countries. With that though, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey all working together, oh my god, begin to push back Russia in the Caucasus region. They begin to push into southern Russia until eventually the full-on Russian military arrives. From there, a stalemate is reached, as nobody really wants to go anywhere or do anything. Where's it going to go from here? Well, also, why am I so zoomed out? I do not know. The main blue team pushes over here into China, and China says, no, I don't want anyone to be pushing into me, and send troops to hold back the Indians and Pakistanis. But in order to do that, they're forced to retreat troops from Myanmar, where the Indians begin to push back. Overall, their front in Southeast Asia just begins to fall, and even some Indian troops begin to push into southern China. So yeah, China here. I mean, Let's break it up like this. China can be stopped by India and Pakistan working together. If you need another country, add in Vietnam and the Philippines. As for Russia, with the entirety of the Middle East, except for Egypt, Japan and South Korea, together with Indonesia, Thailand working together, that's more than enough to defeat them. Think of it that way instead of just everyone versus China and Russia. Because the map looks pretty even right now, but the blue team is starting to push back into Central Asia. They don't dedicate a lot of divisions, but there's still a major pushback as the Chinese and Russians have dedicated even less divisions to the region. Push back into Uzbekistan, even some parts of southern Kazakhstan, before eventually being stopped. They then meet up with this lake right here, which I forgot the name of, and, well, their offensive is stopped right about there. Where are we going to go from here? Well, the blue team is making some major progress. Let's go ahead and see where they're going next. Oh, they're going to Southeast Asia. Oh, China. China. The blue team is now pushing into the south of your country. If you're wondering how they're doing this, think of it this way. Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia versus half of the Chinese military. Now does it make more sense? Great. So yeah, the blue team is making some major advances into China with Indian and Pakistani forces. They may also begin a small push into the mountains, but this is just a few small pushes. There are 0 Chinese divisions here. This would most likely not happen as this is in the Tibetan Plateau / the Himalayan mountain range. So I don't really think they could push in, but you know what can happen? Tibet rebels. And then even some people over here in Xinjiang rebel. So yeah, China's facing some major rebellions, and this is going to be terrible for the country. As the Xinjiang rebellion is doing well. They managed to meet up with the Central Asian Front, and down here with India, encircling a lot of the Chinese military. The Chinese make one desperate attack to get those troops out of there. And they actually manage to do so successfully. They get most of the divisions out before they are captured or killed, although they do lose a lot of land in the process. The Chinese are now fully back, so the rebellions are no longer affecting them, although they have lost a lot of land from this. With that, the Chinese decide that they need at least one huge win to speak about with their people, and they begin a massive push into Korea, capturing all of the north and beginning to push into the south. Of course, in Chinese media, it says that they're absolutely demolishing everyone due to propaganda, but the rest of the world knows what's really happening here, which is just the blue team beginning to push back. With that, the Chinese military actually arrives and fully puts a stop to this, making a massive stalemate, although over here the Russians cannot say the same. In real life, the Russians are struggling to take down Ukraine, so imagine how much worse it would be if they had to take down the entirety of the Middle East and Central Asia. They're kicked out of a lot of Kazakhstan and out of the Caspian Sea region. They then continue to push into southern Russia until they're cut off from the Black Sea, and we now see the Russians starting to realize that they are not going to win this war with ease. Kind of similar to what happened in the Ukrainian war, except this time Russia's actually losing land. Although that may eventually happen. Good luck. But the point here is, there are now blue team troops in Russia, and Russia's forced to retreat all divisions out of Kazakhstan. And now blue team troops are pushing out from Kazakhstan. And now they're pushing back into Mongolia. And everything is going wrong. The red team had such a large advantage when they took over Central Asia. And when they started to push into Southeast Asia, the Indo-Chinese peninsula, it was just, they thought they were invincible in the beginning. Now true power is starting to catch up, as even if, I actually did some research, I looked at the statistics, the blue team is more powerful here. I doubt they would be very organized, seeing as some enemies are working together, but we're just going to ignore that. Because the last time I actually took that into consideration, apparently nobody else did who watched my video and started telling me that I was crazy. So now I'm just going to completely ignore that and see if that makes y'all happy. Sound great? Okay, great. Sounds great. And the blue team is now pushing into southern Russia. A lot of southern Russia. Russia is now starting to see some major losses, and this is just terrible. Ukraine pulls a Belarus and allows the blue team military access. If you're wondering why I said that, it's because Belarus granted Russia access to push into Ukraine at the beginning of the war. But this is just sad. This is just sad. If anything, Russia's gonna take some advice from France, and after a major rebellion breaks out in the country, pretty much all of northern Russia just rebelling, which this is a very important land, but the fact is the Russians are actually starting to notice that the world doesn't revolve around Russia. They then see some of the atrocities that they committed, and honestly, some of it's starting to rebel. This is a very important land, but it does meet up with the blue team and cut Russia into two. From there, the Russian military does arrive and push back the blue team, though, quite heavily actually. But overall, they are still struggling to push back and hold their front lines. With Russia cut into two, though, this world is looking more and more Indian-like. India, you're going to gain a lot from this. A lot of influence. Well, China's starting to fall. China just retreated all troops out of non-important land, as that is all just, as I said, not very important. Mongolia is recaptured, and a second push into Russia is made, capturing all the land around Lake Baikal. From there, the Chinese are finally starting to lose hope, as the Korean Peninsula is recaptured and Manchuria is cut off. At this point, the blue team offers them peace. China and Russia are going to accept, and the war is over. Now here, I am not going to be drawing in a peace treaty, because I didn't know if there would be one, since there were a lot of powerful countries that wouldn't get any land. But if you want to see it, just let me know. I can always drop in the community tab. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.